It's just past 2 in the morning when Evan clocks in for his night shift. The city feels abandoned, a patchwork of dim streetlights and wet asphalt stretching endlessly into the dark. His delivery van hums steadily, headlights slicing through a curtain of fog. He sips from a cup of lukewarm coffee, its bitter taste grounding him in the silence. Most nights, this job feels like meditation: drive, deliver, repeat. But tonight, the air feels heavy, as if something unseen has taken an interest in him. He's been delivering for 3 years, knows every turn and shortcut by heart. His wife's asleep at home, his little boy probably tangled in blankets. Evan tells himself that once he finishes this shift, he'll have a full day off. Just a few more deliveries, just a few more quiet hours on the road. But as he checks the next address, something strange happens. The GPS glitches, rerouting him through an unfamiliar side street. He frowns. He's certain this path wasn't on the map before. The voice on the navigation sounds distorted, almost whispering, "Turn left." He hesitates, staring at the dark turn ahead. His instincts tell him to ignore it, but he follows anyway. The road narrows, hemmed in by thick trees whose branches bend low, scraping the roof of his van. The headlights catch glimpses of things: a swing set, rusted and motionless, a mailbox half buried in mud. His dashboard clock flickers, the seconds jumping backward, then freezing. He rubs his eyes. Fatigue, he thinks. Just fatigue. Minutes stretch strangely long. The air in the van feels colder now, the heater's steady hum drowned out by the faint static coming from his radio. Then a whisper, or maybe a breath, filters through the static. It's faint, like someone trying to speak through the white noise. He leans closer, turning the knob, but the voice fades as soon as he listens for it. He exhales, laughing nervously at himself. "You're hearing things, man," he mutters. Then headlights bloom behind him. Relief rushes through him. Another car. Finally. But as he glances in the mirror, something feels wrong. The lights don't move closer or fall back. They stay exactly the same distance behind, unervingly steady. He slows. The lights slow too. He pulls over to the shoulder, gravel crunching under his tires. The other car doesn't pass. It just vanishes. One moment the lights are there, glaring bright through the fog, and the next, nothing but black emptiness. Evan's pulse pounds in his ears. He steps out, cold air biting his face. The world feels eerily silent. Even the wind seems to have stopped. He scans the road, no tire tracks, no sign of another vehicle. Just endless mist and the echo of his own breathing. He gets back into the van, locks the door, and sits for a moment, trying to calm down. His phone buzzes once. A notification from the delivery app. Route resumed. When he looks back at the screen, his next stop has changed again. No address, just 3 words: keep driving forward. He stares at the screen, unease coiling in his stomach. Outside, the fog thickens, swallowing the road entirely. His headlights flicker, dimming to a soft orange glow. The radio, dead silent moments ago, crackles to life. A woman's voice whispers through the static. "You shouldn't have turned." Evan's hands tremble as he grips the steering wheel. The voice fades, replaced by the low hum of the engine. He puts the van in gear, the tires crunching forward through the darkness. His breath fogs the windshield, and for the first time he notices something faint. Handprints on the inside of the glass. Small ones, pressed against the passenger side. He blinks hard, rubs at them, but they don't fade. The GPS blinks again, signal lost. He's alone now, deep in some forgotten stretch of road that shouldn't exist. The mist curls and moves, like it's breathing with him. He drives faster, desperate to see a light, a building, anything. But the deeper he goes, the quieter the world becomes, until even the engine feels muffled, as if the night itself is listening. Then, faintly in the distance, he sees a sign appear out of the fog. It's old, paint-peeling, words barely legible. He slows to read it. It says, "Welcome back, Evan." The camera of the mind lingers there. The headlights dimming, the fog swallowing the sign, the van disappearing into white silence. The hum of the engine fades to nothing, replaced by the soft crackle of the radio, looping one phrase over and over, "Keep driving forward," and then silence. Just the sound of wind brushing against glass, as the story dissolves into the next driver's nightmare. Julia never liked taking late-night orders, but the pay boost was too good to refuse. She'd been driving for over 6 hours, her playlist looping through the same quiet songs, meant to keep her calm on the empty streets. The air outside was heavy with drizzle, the kind that blurs the world into streaks of orange and gray. Her phone buzzed with a new order, a food delivery from a 24-hour diner to an apartment complex downtown. Nothing unusual until she looked closer. The unit number read 000. First, she thought it was a glitch, maybe a typo. She even texted the customer support line, but the app marked the order as confirmed. With a sigh, she started the engine again, convincing herself it was just another weird data error. The address led her to an old brick building she'd never noticed before, standing between two modern glass towers like a forgotten tooth. Its windows were dark except for one faint light on the top floor. As she stepped out of the car, she could hear the hum of the city fade. No passing cars, no chatter, no wind. Just the faint buzzing of the building's old neon vacancy sign flickering in and out. She grabbed the paper bag from the passenger seat and walked toward the entrance. The door creaked open before she even touched it. Inside, the lobby smelled faintly of bleach and rain. The elevator at the end of the hall stood waiting, its metal doors slightly ajar. She pressed the button anyway, and the doors slid shut with a groan. The floor indicator above blinked between numbers, skipping floors randomly. When it stopped, it didn't show a number at all, just a blank black screen. Julia stepped out into a long corridor washed in pale fluorescent light. Every door had a number: 301, 302, 303, until it didn't. At the far end of the hall stood a door with no number plate. The wood was darker, older, its handle faintly rusted. The app on her phone chimed softly, "You've arrived." Her throat felt dry. She knocked once. No answer. She knocked again, louder. This time, she heard breathing from the other side. Slow, deep, heavy. Her heart started racing, and she took a cautious step back. "Hello? Delivery for, Unit 000? She called out, her voice echoing down the hallway. The breathing stopped. Silence. She waited another moment, then set the bag down by the door. Her phone buzzed. A message from the customer. "Please come inside. I'll pay cash." Her fingers trembled slightly as she typed back, "Sorry, I can't enter apartments." No reply. She turned to leave, but just as she started down the hallway, the sound of the door creaking open made her freeze. She looked back. The door was now slightly ajar, the darkness behind it impossibly deep. From within, she heard the faint sound of something moving. A shuffle, maybe a chair dragging across the floor. "Sir?" she whispered. The air seemed to thicken, the lights above flickering. She edged closer, peering through the small crack. The apartment beyond looked wrong. The furniture was turned toward the walls, the curtains were drawn tight, and the air shimmered with dust like faint static. Her eyes caught something. Dozens of takeout bags, neatly stacked in a pyramid against one corner. All of them from different restaurants. All of them uncollected. A faint whisper drifted from inside, barely audible over her own heartbeat. "Stay a while." Her instincts screamed to run. She spun around, bolting down the corridor toward the elevator, pressing the button again and again. The doors refused to close fast enough. As they finally slid shut, she caught one last glimpse of the hallway. The numbered doors were gone. Every single door now looked the same. No handles, no numbers, just smooth, featureless wood stretching into darkness. When the elevator reached the ground floor, Julia rushed out, gasping for air. She stumbled toward the front door, but when she stepped outside, she wasn't in the same street. The world outside looked older, emptier. No cars, no city lights, just fog rolling in across cracked pavement. Her phone vibrated violently in her hand. She looked down. A new message appeared on her delivery app. "Thank you for coming. Next delivery, Unit 000. Her screen flickered, showing her own reflection in the black glass. Tired, pale, eyes wide with fear. Behind her reflection, for just a split second, she saw a figure standing in the hallway, thin, tall, unmoving. Then the app closed by itself. Julia dropped the phone, the sound echoing through the empty street. She ran toward where she thought her car was parked, but every turn led her back to the same building, the same broken neon sign blinking in the mist. From somewhere high above, a window creaked open. A faint voice floated down, distorted and calm. Delivery received. The camera of the mind lingers on Julia standing frozen in the empty street, rain glistening on her face as the neon sign flickers behind her. Vacancy. Sputtering until only one letter remains lit. CY. Her breath catches. The sign goes dark. Marcus had been on the road for almost 10 hours. The dashboard clock blinked 11:58 p.m. and the soft hum of the diesel engine was the only thing keeping him awake. The long-haul delivery route was supposed to be easy tonight. One final drop-off at a rural property outside the city, then home before dawn. The crate in the back wasn't large, but it was heavy. The manifest didn't list a name, just an address and a note written in faded ink. Deliver before midnight. The highway stretched ahead like a dark ribbon, flanked by endless trees whispering in the wind. The further he drove, the fewer lights he saw. His GPS chirped once, then froze. The screen flickered, glitched, and displayed an error message, recalculating route. Marcus sighed, tapping it impatiently. The voice that followed wasn't the usual digital tone. It was softer, almost human. Take the next right. He frowned. There was no next right, only an old, cracked road half hidden by overgrown grass. His headlights caught the outline of a rusted sign lying face down in the dirt. He slowed, uneasy. The voice repeated, "Turn right." Against his better judgment, he did. The road narrowed immediately, gravel crunching beneath his tires. The forest pressed closer, branches scraping against the sides of the truck like fingernails. His radio hissed faintly, even though it wasn't turned on. He tried to shake the tension out of his shoulders. Just deliver the package, he told himself. Get it done, get paid, get home. After 15 minutes of winding through the back road, the house appeared. A lonely two-story structure standing in a clearing, its roof sagging under the weight of moss and time. A single porch light flickered weakly in the distance. Marcus parked near the gate and cut the engine. The silence hit him immediately. No wind, no crickets, no night sounds at all. He stepped out, gravel crunching under his boots. The air smelled of wet wood and something metallic, almost like rust. He checked the address on the paper one last time. It matched. He grabbed his clipboard, signed off the delivery slip, and lifted the crate from the back. It was colder than before, almost icy against his palms. As he approached the porch, he noticed a faint note taped to the front door. The handwriting was thin, trembling. "You're late." Marcus froze. His eyes darted to the dark windows. "Hello?" he called out, voice echoing. "Delivery here for, whoever lives at 34 Pine Hollow Road?" No answer. Just the groan of old wood as the porch shifted beneath his weight. He set the crate down carefully, glancing at his watch. 12:07 a.m. He was officially late. A faint sound came from inside the house, something dragging slowly across the floor. The sound of weight shifting like furniture being pushed, then stopping. Marcus knocked again, harder. "Sir? Ma'am? I've got your delivery." The dragging stopped. Then, 3 slow knocks echoed back from the other side of the door. His breath caught. He took a step back, pulse pounding in his ears. "Okay, I'm just gonna leave this here," he stammered. He turned and started down the steps when he heard the doorknob turn. Creaked open an inch. Cold air rushed out, carrying with it a faint smell, damp earth and decay. Marcus looked back. Through the crack in the door, he thought he saw movement. A hand, pale and thin, reaching toward the crate. He blinked. The door was shut again. He swallowed hard, his throat dry. He hurried back to his truck, eager to leave. When he opened the driver's door, something stopped him cold. On the dusty window beside his seat were muddy fingerprints. Large, smeared, freshly made. He wiped them away, started the engine, and threw the truck into gear. As the headlights cut through the fog, he saw something standing at the edge of the treeline. A figure. Still. Watching. Its outline was wrong, too long, too still. He blinked again and it was gone. The road back felt longer. He kept checking his mirrors, every shape in the darkness making his heart leap. When the highway finally appeared again, he exhaled in relief. The GPS, now suddenly working, blinked back to life. The display showed a message instead of a route. Delivery complete. Marcus frowned. No, it's not. I didn't even sign it off. He tapped the screen, but it froze again. The voice, that same soft, too human voice, whispered through the speaker. Thank you for returning it. His eyes darted to the rearview mirror. The crate was gone. The cargo bay was empty. The engine stuttered, then roared too loud, rattling the entire truck. The headlights flickered. For a second, he thought he saw something sitting in the passenger seat beside him. The outline of a figure turned slowly toward him, and before he could move, every light in the cab went out. For a heartbeat, there was only darkness. Then, the faintest sound, something heavy sliding across the floor behind him. Marcus screamed, slamming the accelerator. The truck lurched forward into the black, the radio hissing violently before cutting out. When the lights came back, he was alone on an empty stretch of road. The crate was gone. The address vanished from his manifest, and the GPS showed nothing but a blinking dot in the middle of nowhere. He kept driving until dawn, too afraid to stop. When he finally reached the city, he parked the truck and stepped out into the rising light. His hands were shaking. He walked to the back to check again. Maybe he was just exhausted, maybe he imagined everything. Inside the cargo space sat a new crate. Identical, unlabeled. Fresh mud smeared across its surface. A note was taped to it, written in that same trembling handwriting. You're early. Sarah hated this part of town. The streets were too narrow, the lamps too far apart, and everything felt just a little off, like the world had forgotten to breathe here. She had only one more order left for the night. A grocery drop-off for Mr. Alden. The delivery instructions were polite, handwritten in the app's notes section. Please bring inside. Cash tip waiting. Normally, she wouldn't accept anything that required going inside, but it was past midnight and she needed the money. The GPS led her down a quiet street lined with old wooden houses that looked frozen in time. The house she stopped at was number 17, sitting at the very end of the cul-de-sac. Its porch light flickered weakly, casting a cone of amber light on the wet steps. A black cat darted across the yard as she turned off her car engine. She grabbed the 2 grocery bags, milk, bread, candles, and something wrapped in brown paper, and walked toward the porch. The house smelled faintly of rain and something older, like damp soil and rotting wood. She knocked once. No answer. She checked the app. Customer has been notified. Then the door creaked open. A man stood there, tall, pale, wearing an old-fashioned housecoat. His skin looked oddly translucent, like candle wax stretched too thin. His eyes, though tired, had a kindness to them. You must be the delivery girl, he said softly. His voice had the faint crackle of static, like it came from a distant speaker. Please come in. I can't find my phone to pay you properly. Sarah hesitated at the threshold. That's okay, sir. The payment already went through the app. Nonsense, he said, smiling faintly. I insist. Come in out of the cold. Something about his politeness disarmed her. She stepped inside. The air was heavy, colder than outside, yet still and suffocating. The interior looked antique, like stepping into a photograph. Furniture covered with lace doilies, a fireplace full of gray ash, framed portraits whose subjects stared too directly at her. He gestured toward the table. You can set them there. She placed the bags down, noticing the faint smell of burnt wax. Are you having a party or something? She asked, nodding to the candles. The man smiled. A remembrance. Her eyes flicked to the portraits again. Every face on the wall, dozens of them, bore a striking resemblance to him. Same hollow cheeks, same gray-blue eyes. Some were blurred, as if the image had been water-damaged. "I'll just be on my way," she said quickly. He nodded. "Of course. Thank you, Sarah." She froze. "I didn't tell you my name." He looked confused. "Didn't you?" Her throat went dry. "No," she whispered. The room suddenly felt smaller. The air hummed faintly, and for a second she thought she saw movement behind one of the portraits. A flicker of shadow like something shifting within the frame. She stepped backward. "I really have to go." He didn't stop her, only smiled, eyes soft and tired. "Thank you for the delivery," he said again. "It's been so long since anyone's come by." Sarah turned, opened the door, and stepped out into the night. The air outside felt lighter, cleaner. She hurried back to her car, slammed the door shut, and exhaled hard. Her hands were trembling as she reached for her phone to confirm the drop-off. But when she opened the app, her heart nearly stopped. The delivery receipt displayed a red banner across the top. "Delivery failed. Customer deceased." Her eyes darted back to the house. The porch light was off. The windows were black. It looked completely abandoned. Every trace of life gone. She blinked, disbelieving. She could still smell the house, the candle wax, the damp. Her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. The caller ID read, "Mr. Alden." Her thumb hovered over the answer button. Maybe it was customer service. Maybe the app was glitching. Against her better judgment, she answered. A low static filled her ear, then the same gentle voice from before. "Sarah, thank you for bringing them." Her stomach twisted. "Bringing what?" she whispered. There was a pause. Then, "The candles. I needed the light to see them again." Click. The line went dead. Sarah sat frozen, her reflection pale in the dark windshield. She glanced at the porch one last time, and saw the faintest flicker of light inside the house. Candlelight, moving from room to room. She threw the car into drive and sped off, her hands slick with sweat. When she reached the main road, she checked her rearview mirror. The street behind her was empty, except for a faint glow, a row of candles burning steadily in every window. The next morning, when she tried to file a delivery report, the order history was gone. No record of Mr. Alden, no address, no payment. Just an empty slot where the job should have been. That night, as she got ready for another shift, she plugged in her phone. The screen lit up on its own. A new delivery order. No restaurant name, no map link, just a message. "Bring candles again." Same address, same time. The screen flickered, the app froze, and her reflection appeared, pale and trembling, with the faint outline of a man standing just behind her shoulder. Luis had been driving for the same courier company for nearly 8 years. The job was simple: long nights, quiet roads, and an occasional eerie stop in some forgotten corner of the city. But that night, he wasn't on his usual route. The dispatcher had called in a last-minute change. Pick up a mislabeled parcel from an old warehouse on the outskirts before heading home. Easy enough, he thought. Just grab it, sign it, and go. The warehouse sat at the edge of an industrial zone, half swallowed by weeds and fog. Its metal walls were streaked with rust, and the flickering floodlight out front cast long, uneven shadows. Luis parked his van by the loading dock and killed the engine. The silence hit immediately. No wind, no hum of distant traffic, just the faint ticking of cooling metal. He checked the time. 2:14 a.m. His breath formed pale clouds in the air as he grabbed his flashlight and stepped out. The cold bit through his jacket. The building loomed ahead, the main entrance hanging slightly open, swaying with each faint gust. A small sign above the door read Hawthorne Logistics, but the letters were faded, half-eaten by rust. Inside, the air was heavy with the smell of dust and oil. His footsteps echoed across the concrete floor as he moved down the empty hallway. Rows of abandoned forklifts and empty pallets sat in the dark like silent sentinels. He swept his flashlight across the walls. Old delivery charts, broken safety posters, and a line of lockers still tagged with employee names. He wondered when anyone had last worked here. According to the work order, the parcel was supposed to be in Section D, near the back. The deeper he went, the stranger it felt. The air grew colder, and faint echoes seemed to move when he didn't. The sound of metal clinking somewhere distant made him pause. "Hello?" he called out, his voice swallowed by the dark. Silence. Then faintly a bang. He turned sharply, the beam of his flashlight slicing across the stacked boxes and cracked crates. Something or someone had slammed one of the loading doors shut. "Probably the wind," he muttered, trying to steady his breathing. But the air wasn't moving. He found Section D. The shelves here were still loaded with sealed boxes. The one he needed had been marked with a red tag, undelivered. He crouched down, brushed away a layer of dust, and frowned. The tag wasn't new. It was dated June 2015. "Man, this has to be a mistake," he whispered. But the manifest confirmed it. That was the right item. He lifted the box. It was heavier than expected, and when he tilted it slightly, something inside shifted with a soft thud. Then he noticed something else. Every other box around it had names written on the sides. Full names. He stepped closer, reading them aloud in disbelief. Jessica Hall, Mark Rivera, Tom Hahn. Names he recognized. They were people from the same company, drivers who'd gone missing over the years. He remembered the whispers at the depot, stories of those who never made it back from a shift. The air behind him stirred. He turned. The far door at the end of the hall had opened on its own, groaning slowly. From the dark beyond came a faint scraping sound, something heavy being dragged along the floor. His flashlight flickered, and for an instant he saw shapes, outlines of trucks, lined up perfectly, engines cold and dead. But the doors on each one were open. He stepped closer, compelled by something between dread and disbelief. The closer he got, the more he realized these weren't company trucks anymore. The logos had been painted over in black. The license plates removed. On the inside walls of the first truck, he saw something that froze him. Delivery manifests, hundreds of them, stapled in messy rows. Each one had the same red stamp, undelivered. His breathing quickened. He turned to leave, the box still in his arms, when a sound broke through the silence. An engine coughing to life. He whipped around. One of the trucks at the far end had turned on. The headlights blazed, flooding the hall with harsh white light. "Hey, is someone in there?" he shouted. But the cab was empty. The door swung open and slammed shut again, hard enough to echo through the whole building. The engine revved once, loud and angry, then died. Luis dropped the box and bolted. His boots pounded against the concrete, flashlight beam bouncing wildly. The banging started again, this time all around him. Metal doors slamming, footsteps echoing, whispers threading through the air. He reached the main entrance and shoved the door open, stumbling into the cold night. His van sat where he'd left it, except the back doors were wide open. He froze. Slowly, he walked closer. The interior lights flickered on automatically, revealing what looked like rows of small cardboard boxes stacked neatly against the sides. Each one had a red tag. Each one read the same word, undelivered. His hands trembled as he slammed the doors shut, jumped into the driver's seat, and started the engine. Gravel sprayed behind the tires as he tore away from the building. The headlights caught the warehouse one last time. But now all the truck lights inside were on, glowing faintly through the open dock doors, like eyes staring after him. When he reached the main road, his radio crackled to life. A voice came through, faint, distorted, but unmistakable. "Delivery pending," it said. Luis turned it off immediately, heart hammering. But a soft knocking started from the back of the van, rhythmic, insistent. He didn't look back. He drove until dawn painted the horizon gray, until the world around him looked normal again. When he finally stopped at a gas station, he opened the back doors, ready to throw everything out, but the boxes were gone. Every single one. Only one remained, sitting in the center of the floor. The red tag read his name, Tara had always loved the quiet of her night shifts. The empty streets, the neon reflections on wet asphalt, the soft hum of the van's engine. It was her version of peace. She worked for a small local courier service, taking on odd-hour deliveries no one else wanted. But tonight's final stop didn't sit right. The order had come in late, unregistered, with no pickup address. Just coordinates. Deep into the hills. She almost refused it, but the system didn't allow the order to be deleted. It simply marked her as assigned. The dispatcher didn't respond to her messages either, which was unusual. She sighed, tightened her seatbelt, and followed the GPS out of the city, watching the streetlights fade one by one until only her headlights guided her through the dark. The road narrowed into a dirt path lined by skeletal trees, their bare branches bending under the wind. The rain started softly, then turned into a steady hiss against the windshield. Her wipers screeched in protest. According to the map, the drop-off was still 4 miles away. No houses, no street names, no signs of life. She tried to call the customer, but the number flashed invalid contact. The unease in her gut deepened. She checked the parcel, small, black-wrapped, no sender information. Only a name, M. Calloway. She didn't know why, but it felt familiar. The GPS blinked erratically, the voice navigation glitching. In 500 feet, turn. Then silence. The van's radio buzzed with static. Out of instinct, Tara reached over to turn it off. But before her hand touched the dial, the static shifted into something else. Faint breathing. Then, a whisper, "You're almost here." Her foot slammed the brake. The van skidded on wet mud, sliding to a stop. The forest outside seemed to lean closer, the trees pressing in like silent witnesses. "Nope," she muttered, forcing a nervous laugh. "Absolutely not." She grabbed her phone, ready to cancel the route, but her screen froze. The GPS arrow had stopped moving, pointing directly at her van. The display now read, "Delivered." Her stomach dropped. "What?" she whispered. She looked up. The road ahead was empty, but her headlights caught something in the rain. A figure, standing still. It wasn't close enough to see clearly, just the faint outline of someone wearing a delivery uniform. Same logo as hers. Tara blinked through the rain, trying to make sense of it. The figure didn't move, didn't raise a hand, just stood, staring. "Hello?" she called out through the cracked window. No answer. She blinked again, and the figure was gone. Heart pounding, she started the engine and pressed the accelerator, desperate to get out. The van groaned forward, tires fighting the mud. The forest swallowed her completely now. Darkness so thick it felt alive. After a few minutes, she slowed, realizing she had somehow circled back to the same spot. The same curve, the same bent tree, the same washed-out road sign. Then she saw it again. The figure, closer this time. The uniform glistened under the rain, and as the light hit its face, Tara's breath hitched. It wasn't a stranger. It was her. Her own face, blank and drenched, staring through the downpour. The reflection, no, the copy, stood in the middle of the road, holding the same parcel she had in her van. Her headlights flickered, plunging the scene into darkness for a heartbeat. And when they came back, the figure had moved to the driver's side window. Tara screamed, slamming the gear into reverse. Mud sprayed as she backed away, but when she looked ahead again, the copy was standing in front of the van, head tilted slightly, mouth opening slowly. The rain muffled everything, except the faint, deliberate words, "Deliver it." Her phone buzzed violently on the seat. The same coordinates flashed again. A new message appeared under the delivery log. Recipient confirmed. Signature required. Her shaking hands reached for the parcel. It was colder now, heavier, as if it contained something alive. She rolled down the window and tossed it out into the rain. "Take it," she cried. The wind swallowed her voice. The figure didn't move. Then, the sound of another van engine roared behind her. She turned, headlights blazed in the mirror, identical to hers, same model, same logo. The driver inside looked exactly like her too, eyes wide, hands gripping the wheel. The second van accelerated, coming straight toward her. Tara screamed and hit the gas. Both vehicles surged forward. The impact never came. The second van vanished into thin air, swallowed by the fog. Her chest heaved, her pulse hammering. She didn't stop until she saw faint city lights again, until the rain softened into mist. When she reached the depot at dawn, her boss stared at her in confusion. "Tara, what are you doing here?" he asked. "You quit last month." Her blood ran cold. "No, I was on the night shift." He frowned. "The van you're driving was totaled in an accident. Same road you just came from. They never found the driver." She turned toward the lot. The van she had driven sat there, mud-covered and smoking slightly, her reflection staring back at her from the windshield. And as the first light of morning broke through the clouds, the black parcel she had thrown away appeared neatly on the passenger seat. The delivery log blinked once on her dashboard screen. Final delivery complete. The engine started on its own, humming softly, waiting for her next destination, as if she'd never left the route at all. Eddie had been on the road for 16 hours straight, running caffeine and bad luck through his veins. The company had recently switched to an algorithm-based route system that didn't care if you were human. It just sent you where the data said you should go, efficient, cold, and relentless. He'd learned not to question it. But Route 19 was different. Drivers whispered about it like an urban legend. A stretch of highway that didn't exist on normal maps, but sometimes popped up in the system. No one knew where it led, only that the few who'd taken it came back, changed. The shift started normal enough. Clear skies, light traffic, the comforting hum of his truck beneath him. Then, around 2:45 a.m., his GPS pinged and rerouted him automatically. The display glitched, and the words "recalculating, Route 19 assigned" appeared. He frowned, tapping the screen. The coordinates showed an old service road that wasn't supposed to exist anymore. It had been shut down after a landslide years back. "System glitch," he muttered, yawning. But curiosity got the better of him. He turned onto the side road, headlights cutting through the fog. The pavement turned rough, cracked, almost skeletal. Trees leaned inward, as though trying to close the road off. The radio fizzed to life, a static hum that seemed to pulse with the rhythm of his heartbeat. The air grew heavy. His headlights illuminated a faded green sign on the side. "Route 19, proceed with caution." He chuckled nervously. "They're kidding, right?" But then he noticed something else. A delivery van parked on the shoulder, identical to his company logo and all. The hazard lights blinked slowly. Eddie pulled alongside and rolled down his window. The other van was empty, door wide open. He grabbed his flashlight and stepped out, his boots crunching against gravel. "Hello? Anyone here?" No answer. The forest swallowed his voice. He shined the light inside the other van. The driver's seat was empty, but the keys were still in the ignition, engine cold. A stack of delivery slips sat on the dashboard, every one marked with the same customer name, E. Carter. His name. A chill ran through him. He backed away, scanning the darkness. The wind stirred the branches, making them creak like tired bones. Then, a faint voice from the trees. "You're late, Eddie." He froze. The flashlight beam wavered. "Who's there?" he demanded. The voice came again, softer this time. "You were supposed to finish the route." He turned in a slow circle, but the woods seemed empty. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw movement, a shadow darting between the trees. He climbed back into his truck and slammed the door shut, locking it. The radio flickered again, this time picking up a voice that sounded like his dispatcher. "Eddie, you need to complete Route 19. The customer is waiting." The voice was wrong. Too calm. Too slow. "Not happening." He hissed and threw the truck into reverse, spinning back toward the main road. But every turn led him deeper into the forest. The fog thickened until it felt like he was driving underwater. The trees on either side started to blur together. He checked his mirrors. There was another pair of headlights behind him, following at a steady distance. His pulse quickened. He pressed the gas harder, the truck roaring. But the lights behind him matched his speed perfectly. Then, without warning, they vanished. The road stretched empty once again, as if no one had ever been there. Then he saw something ahead, a figure standing in the middle of the road. He honked, but it didn't move. It was tall, wearing a delivery uniform like his, face hidden under a hood. Eddie slowed reluctantly, rolling the window down just enough to shout, "Hey, you okay?" The figure didn't answer. It simply raised its arm and pointed down the road, toward a dim orange glow. Against all instinct, Eddie followed. The light turned out to be from a small gas station. Old, half-collapsed, yet the neon sign flickered weakly. Open. He parked, engine idling, and stepped out. The place smelled like rust and rain. A bell above the door jingled as he entered. The aisles were empty except for a few dusty cans and a radio softly playing an old country tune. Behind the counter stood an elderly man with pale eyes. "You're late," the man said, voice dry as paper. Eddie forced a laugh. "Yeah, story of my life." The old man didn't smile. He slid a small parcel across the counter. "This is for you." Eddie blinked. "What do you mean? I'm the driver." The man's gaze didn't waver. "You were." Something about the way he said it froze Eddie in place. He looked down at the parcel. It was wrapped in gray paper, damp and torn at the edges. His name was scrawled across the top in shaky handwriting. When he touched it, it felt warm, like it had been sitting near a fire. A low rumble filled the air outside. Headlights swept across the windows again, the same van that had followed him. Its engine idled quietly, waiting. The old man nodded toward the door. "Your route's not finished." Eddie stepped back slowly, shaking his head. "No, I'm done." "I'm not." The lights flickered. The radio cut out. A voice, his own voice, came through the static. "Delivery complete." When the lights returned, the old man was gone. The shop was empty. The counter, the shelves, all dust-covered and untouched, like no one had been there in decades. Eddie stumbled outside, clutching the parcel. The air was still. His truck was gone. Only the other van remained, engine running, passenger door open. He hesitated, heart pounding, then climbed inside. The dashboard screen lit up automatically. Route 19, next stop home. He started driving, desperate to escape the endless road. But as dawn began to break, he saw something in the distance. A gas station. Same sign, same cracked windows, same orange glow. He stopped breathing. The odometer hadn't moved at all. He was still on Route 19. And when he looked into the rearview mirror, the passenger seat wasn't empty anymore. Something sat there holding the parcel. His own reflection smiled back at him from the window. "Delivery complete," it whispered. Mara had only been working for the delivery company for 3 months, but she was already used to the strange late-night requests. The kind of jobs that didn't appear in the official logs, the ones where the customer's address didn't exist on GPS, and where she had to sign a paper manifest instead of logging it on the digital scanner. Most drivers avoided them, but Mara needed the money. Rent was overdue, and she wasn't going to lose another apartment because of fear or superstition. That night, her shift was nearly over when the last order popped up. Cold storage delivery, Zone 7. It read. There was no sender name, no recipient. Just coordinates leading toward the industrial outskirts. The part of town where abandoned factories slumped in silence and stray dogs ruled the streets. The rain had turned the asphalt into a mirror. The yellow glow from her dashboard lights painted her face pale, hollow. She drove in silence, her only companion the rhythmic squeak of the wipers. As she got closer to the coordinates, fog began to curl around her headlights, thick and white like smoke. The streetlights ended abruptly. Ahead, the world was swallowed in gray. She followed the arrow on the GPS until a massive, frost-covered building emerged from the mist, an old refrigerated warehouse. The nameplate above the steel doors was corroded, the letters barely legible. Harrow Cold Storage. Her delivery note read, "Ring twice. Someone will open." She parked beside a rusted loading dock and climbed out, breath fogging in the air. The ground was slick with ice. She approached the door, pressed the buzzer once. Nothing. She pressed again, harder. From inside, faint metallic thuds echoed, slow, deliberate, as if someone were walking on steel catwalks above. Then the door clicked open. A rush of cold air hit her, sharp and biting. The man who stood there looked like a worker. Heavy parka, gloves, face shadowed by the hood. He didn't speak, just gestured for her to bring the package inside. She hesitated, but stepped in, instantly shivering. The temperature must have been below freezing. Her breath crystallized in the beam of her flashlight. The man walked ahead without a word, his boots scraping the frost-covered floor. The inside was huge, an endless maze of storage units and metal corridors. Dim red emergency lights flickered along the ceiling, casting everything in a dull, bloody glow. Somewhere in the distance, the hum of industrial freezers pulsed steadily, like a massive heartbeat. "Where do you want the delivery?" she asked, her voice echoing faintly. He didn't answer. He just turned a corner and kept walking. Faster now. She followed, clutching the small insulated container tighter. They passed row after row of sealed units, each one marked with white chalk. B7, B8, B9. But the higher the numbers went, the thicker the frost became, coating the walls and even the doors like the veins of some ancient glacier. Finally, the man stopped at a large metal door labeled B13. The handle was rimed with ice. He turned to face her, or at least she thought he did. His hood hid most of his features, but she could see his mouth moving slowly. A whisper. "What did you say?" she asked, stepping closer. The whisper came again, just barely audible. "Deliver it." She handed him the container, relieved to finally be done. But when he reached for it, she noticed something. His gloves weren't fabric. They were rigid, dark, almost fused to his skin. And his breath wasn't visible. He took the container and placed it gently on the floor. The metal door behind him began to groan, opening inch by inch. A thick white fog poured out, and with it, a smell, faint but unmistakable. Decay. Mara staggered back, her heart hammering. "What's in there?" she demanded. The man didn't respond. He simply picked up the container and stepped inside the frozen chamber. The fog swirled around him, swallowing him whole. Then the door slammed shut. She ran forward and yanked on the handle, but it wouldn't budge. Frost spread rapidly across the metal, sealing it completely. The sound of the freezers grew louder, a mechanical wail that vibrated through the floor. The red lights flickered, and she realized something horrifying. There were other sounds mixed into the hum. Whispering. Dozens of voices, muffled, echoing from behind the other doors. Her flashlight beam caught movement. Faint shapes pressing against the frosted glass panels of nearby units. Human shapes. She stumbled backward, breath ragged, fumbling for the exit. The long hallway seemed to stretch infinitely now, every step heavier than the last. The whispers followed her, growing louder, merging into words. "Stay, stay, stay." She turned a corner and froze. The man was there again, standing in front of the exit, hood still down, frost covering his shoulders. But this time his face was visible, or what was left of it. His skin was translucent, veins like dark threads beneath. His eyes were solid white. She screamed and bolted sideways, ducking into another corridor. The cold gnawed at her bones. Her breath came in ragged bursts as she searched for another way out. Then she spotted a back door. Slightly ajar, the metal warped from age. She lunged for it and burst into the night. The fog outside had thickened, turning everything into a white abyss. She sprinted blindly toward the faint outline of her van. When she reached it, her fingers trembled so hard she could barely unlock the door. She threw herself inside and slammed it shut, panting. For a moment, there was only silence. Then a knock, soft, from the back of the van. She turned slowly. The insulated container sat on the floor behind her seat. The frost on its lid cracked softly as the temperature inside rose. A single breath fogged the air from within. Her phone buzzed. A new notification appeared on her screen. Cold storage, Route 7, next delivery scheduled. She stared at it, trembling. Then, from the rearview mirror, She saw him, sitting in the passenger seat, eyes white, lips blue, staring straight ahead. The engine started by itself, and as the van pulled out of the fog, the temperature inside began to drop again, the air turning sharp and thin. Mara realized the delivery wasn't over. She was the cargo now, another name soon to be sealed away in the endless frozen corridors of Harrow cold storage, where every delivery found its way home, eventually. Devon hated late-night house deliveries. Apartments were fine, cameras everywhere, lights, security codes, but isolated houses? Those made his skin crawl. They always looked like they were holding their breath. That night, his last delivery took him far from the city, up through a twisting hillside road where even cell service died halfway. The address glowed faintly on his GPS, 237 Hollow Bend Lane. The delivery note said, "Customer prefers no contact. Leave package at door, take a photo as proof." Easy enough. He turned off the main highway and entered a narrow dirt road bordered by tall, silent trees. The air felt heavy, thick with mist, and his headlights barely cut through it. Branches arched over the road like bony fingers. Every bump in the road rattled the package on the passenger seat. Small, wrapped neatly in brown paper, tied with red string. No return address, just a name, Eleanor Vance. After 20 minutes, the house came into view. A massive Victorian-style mansion, paint peeling, its windows reflecting faint light like eyes. The porch light flickered weakly. Devon slowed the van, uneasy. The place looked uninhabited. Yet someone had signed for the order just 30 minutes earlier, according to the app log. He parked near the steps and killed the engine. The night fell silent. No wind, no insects, nothing. Just his own breath fogging the cold air. He stepped out, grabbed the parcel, and started up the creaking steps. Each board groaned under his weight. The door loomed tall, blackened by age. A single brass knocker shaped like a lion's head glinted faintly. He crouched to leave the box beside the doormat, but then noticed the door was slightly open. Just an inch. Enough to show darkness inside. He froze, heart thudding. "Hello?" he called out softly. "Delivery for Eleanor Vance?" No answer. He took a cautious step back. "All right, I'll just leave it here," he said to no one in particular. He raised his phone, opened the camera, and snapped a picture. But when he looked at the preview, something made his stomach drop. The photo showed the package on the doorstep, and a figure standing just inside the open door. A woman, pale, still, watching. He whipped his head up, but the doorway was empty. The same hollow darkness stared back. He laughed shakily. Nope, not doing this," he muttered, stepping backward down the steps. His boot hit a loose plank, and the wood cracked loudly. From inside the house came a sound. A soft, deliberate knock. From the inside of the door. 3 times. He froze. The knocking stopped. Then, slowly, the door opened wider. The smell of damp wood and something faintly metallic drifted out. "Miss Vance?" he said again, voice trembling. "Your delivery's here." A whisper floated through the dark, like the sound of dry leaves brushing together. "Bring it in." He swallowed hard. "Ma'am, I'm not supposed to enter private property." The whisper came again, clearer now. "Please, it's cold." Something about the tone, fragile, pleading, cut through his fear. Against all sense, he stepped across the threshold, just far enough to place the box on the hall floor. The air inside was frigid, colder than outside. The wallpaper peeled in long, curling strips, and an old chandelier swung slightly overhead, its crystals chiming softly. He set the package down. "There you go," he murmured. As he turned to leave, a faint voice whispered from the shadows, "You're early tonight." He froze mid-step. "Excuse me?" The voice came again, this time behind him. "You always arrive later." He spun around. The hallway was empty, but the box was gone. Only a faint wet trail led deeper into the house, disappearing into the darkness. His pulse spiked. "I'm leaving," he said out loud, forcing his voice to sound steady. He hurried to the front door, but it was closed. He didn't remember closing it. When he tried the handle, it wouldn't move. Locked. His breath quickened. "Come on," he muttered, yanking it harder. Behind him, footsteps echoed. Soft, slow, deliberate. He turned. A figure stood at the end of the hallway. It was a woman, dressed in an old-fashioned nightgown, hair long and gray, face pale as wax. She moved toward him, bare feet soundless on the wooden floor. "You shouldn't have come," she whispered. "It's been delivered before." He backed against the door. "What are you talking about?" She raised a trembling hand, pointing toward the small table by the staircase. There, under the faint light of the chandelier, sat another brown parcel, identical to the one he'd brought. Same size, same red string. Except this one looked old. The paper yellowed, the corners crumbling with age. And written across the top in faded ink was his own name, Devin Miles. His throat went dry. "What the hell?" The woman stepped closer, her eyes suddenly black, her voice low and hollow. "You keep delivering it." He turned, slammed his shoulder against the door, and it burst open. Cold air rushed in as he stumbled outside, sprinting toward his van. He didn't look back until he was halfway down the dirt road. When he did, the house was gone. Only an empty clearing remained, blanketed in fog. No structure, no light, no sound. His radio crackled to life. "Delivery confirmed. Thank you, Devin." He grabbed the radio, shouting, "Who is this?" The voice came again, slower this time. "Thank you for delivering yourself." The connection cut. The van's interior grew colder, his breath turning white. He looked down. The passenger seat was empty, except for the brown parcel tied in red string. His name freshly written across the top. He threw it out the window, shaking. The van jolted forward, tires spitting gravel. But when he looked in the rearview mirror, the package was sitting neatly on the dashboard, the red string unraveling slowly by itself. His phone buzzed once more, the delivery app flashing. Next order, 237 Hollow Bend Lane. Estimated arrival, 2:37 a.m. He glanced at the clock, 2:36. The air inside the van turned heavy. From the back, something shifted. A whisper, soft and cold. "You're early again." The storm had rolled in fast that night. A curtain of rain slamming against the city streets, thunder growling like an unseen beast. Travis had been driving for 6 hours straight, his phone pinging endlessly with new orders. Most drivers had gone offline, but he needed the money. Rent was due, and his fuel gauge was already flirting with empty. The last order appeared on his screen at 1:11 a.m. Pickup, Mama Lena's Diner. Drop-off, 14 Sycamore Drive. Easy, he thought. One more delivery, then home. But when he looked closer, something was off. The diner had been closed for years, burned down in a kitchen fire. Everyone in town knew that. Yet the app accepted the order. The pickup confirmed automatically. He frowned, tapping to cancel, but the screen froze. Then a message flashed, "Delivery in progress." The rain hammered harder as he drove, the wipers screeching against the windshield. The roads gleamed with reflections of flickering streetlights. Every few seconds, his headlights caught glimpses of empty bus stops, dark windows, and streets that looked far too quiet. He passed the spot where Mama Lena's once stood. Now a hollow lot surrounded by police tape, overgrown with weeds. Still, the app's map showed a glowing red dot pulsing in the center. He slowed, unsure whether to laugh or turn back. "This has to be some kind of glitch," he muttered. But his phone buzzed again. A text appeared, from an unknown number. "Thank you for accepting the order. The customer is waiting." His stomach tightened. He didn't reply. Instead, he drove toward the address listed, 14 Sycamore Drive. The road curved away from the main drag, cutting through a quiet residential area. Houses lined both sides, but most were dark, curtains drawn. When he finally reached number 14, the house stood out immediately. Faint yellow light glowed in one upstairs window. Everything else was still. He parked across the street, engine humming softly, the rain easing to a drizzle. The house looked old but well kept. 2 stories, white siding, a porch swing creaking faintly in the wind. He checked the order details again. The note said, "Knock twice. Do not ring the bell." Travis sighed. He grabbed the paper bag sitting on his seat, but froze. The bag was wet, not from the rain, from inside. He opened it slowly, and a sour, metallic smell filled the air. Inside was a smaller package wrapped in wax paper. He didn't want to look closer. He just wanted to drop it off and leave. He ran through the rain to the porch and knocked twice. The sound echoed through the house. Silence followed, thick and heavy. Then faint footsteps upstairs. A pause. Then the soft creak of someone descending the staircase. The steps grew louder until the doorknob began to turn. The door opened just a crack, and a woman's voice drifted out. "You're late." He blinked, trying to make out her face. "Sorry. The rain." "Leave it inside," she interrupted. Her voice was calm, but distant, like she was speaking through water. He hesitated. "Ma'am, I'm not supposed to enter the house." The door opened wider. She stood there, barefoot, wearing a thin robe. Her hair hung wet and dark, her eyes too wide, her skin pale and waxy under the porch light. She smiled faintly. "It's for him," she said, stepping aside. Travis looked past her. Inside, the living room was dimly lit. A single lamp flickered near an old recliner, where the outline of a man sat motionless. His face was turned toward the TV, though the screen was nothing but static. Travis swallowed hard. "All right," he said, voice barely steady. He stepped in, set the package down on a side table and turned to leave. But the woman's voice stopped him. "You forgot the receipt." He froze, confused. I didn't print one." She smiled wider. "You always forget it." Lightning flashed through the windows, lighting up the room, and for a split second, Travis saw the truth. The man in the recliner wasn't alive. His face was gray, eyes sunken, mouth open in a silent scream. His hands were shriveled, bone-dry. The air smelled of rot and damp earth. Travis stumbled backward. "What the hell?" The woman was gone. The front door slammed shut on its own. The lights flickered and died. Darkness swallowed the room. The TV hissed louder. The static changed, forming shapes. Faces. Dozens of them. Their mouths moved soundlessly, eyes staring straight at him. He backed toward the door, fumbling for the handle, but his fingers met only cold wood. Then his phone buzzed. He looked down. The delivery app was open again, but the order status had changed. Delivered. "Thank you, Travis." Underneath, a new message appeared. "Now it's your turn." A sound came from the hallway, slow, dragging footsteps, like bare feet sliding across wood. He turned toward it, heart hammering. A silhouette appeared in the faint glow of the static. A tall figure with a delivery cap, soaked from the rain, carrying the same kind of paper bag he'd just brought. The figure moved closer, its face hidden in shadow. Travis whispered, "Who are you?" The figure lifted its head. It was him. Same eyes. Same soaked jacket. The doppelganger smiled, a slow, broken grin. "Just making my delivery." He stumbled backward, tripping over the rug, crashing into the table. The package split open on the floor. What spilled out wasn't food, it was photographs. Dozens of them. His face, his van, his apartment, every delivery he'd made that week. Everyone, taken from an angle that suggested someone had been watching. The static on the TV turned into a voice. Deep, crackling, distorted. "Order received." The air grew colder, his breath visible. The other version of himself stepped closer, holding out the same paper bag. "For you," it said softly. Travis shook his head, backing up. No, I'm not." But the moment he touched the bag, the lights flickered back on. The house was empty, the recliner vacant, the woman gone. He stood alone, rain dripping from his hair, the sound of thunder fading outside. His phone buzzed once more. A new order. Same pickup location. Same delivery address. He dropped the phone, staring in horror as it vibrated across the floor. The screen flashed again, and this time the order name had changed. "Pickup, Travis Miller." Drop-off, 14 Sycamore Drive. He looked up, and the front door slowly creaked open by itself. A faint voice drifted in from the rain, soft and far away. "You're late again." Jared's route was supposed to be easy, a long haul through the city's outskirts to the industrial district. But at 11:47 p.m., his GPS rerouted him unexpectedly. Instead of the usual highway, it directed him toward a narrow set of railroad tracks labeled Midnight Express, a route he had never seen before. The name flashed on the screen in bold red letters. Below it, a single instruction: follow until the last stop. He glanced at the clock. It was odd, no delivery should have been assigned this late. But the system locked him in. The order appeared as urgent, with no sender or recipient details. The package was wrapped in plain black paper, sealed with brown tape. There was no label, only a note taped to the side: "Do not open. Deliver at all costs." Jared shrugged. It wasn't the first strange order he'd had. But something about this felt different. The air outside his cab was unnaturally still as he followed the GPS into an area where streetlights vanished, replaced by the faint glow of fog. The road narrowed, curving sharply into a tunnel that wasn't marked on any map. Inside the tunnel, the air grew cold and damp. His headlights revealed rusty tracks embedded in the road, the metal glistening like wet teeth. The GPS display pulsed in time with the truck's engine, a slow, hypnotic beat. The screen flickered, and a voice, deep, mechanical, distorted, whispered, "Proceed." He tightened his grip on the wheel. "Yeah, sure," he muttered. His breath fogged inside the cab. The truck's radio sputtered to life, playing a warped version of an old train whistle, low and mournful. Minutes passed. The GPS kept him locked on the same route. No road signs, no exits, only endless rails and fog. Then, without warning, the truck lurched forward. The radio exploded into static, and the world outside vanished. Jared blinked. He wasn't on the road anymore. The truck was moving along the tracks themselves, as if he was aboard some ghost train. The sound of steel grinding against steel echoed through the cab. Through the windshield, he could see shadows rushing past. Vague shapes in human form, faceless, their limbs elongated, moving unnaturally. A voice crackled over the radio again. "Next stop, delivery." Jared swallowed hard. The GPS now displayed a station name, Terminal 11. There was no map of this place anywhere in his system. The numbers flickered, glowing faintly in the darkness. The truck slowed, coming to a stop beside an abandoned platform. Fog rolled over the edge, curling like fingers. Ahead, the station sign glimmered, warped, half-formed letters spelling Midnight Express. The platform was empty. No tracks led onward, just black void stretching into nothingness. He stepped out cautiously, the rain soaking his jacket instantly. The package on the passenger seat seemed heavier now, as though filled with stone. His boots crunched on gravel that sounded unnaturally loud. Somewhere in the mist, he heard the faint clang of a bell, a train bell, but there was no train. From the darkness came a sound, slow footsteps. Jared froze. The air grew colder. He turned toward the sound, flashlight in hand, and saw a figure stepping onto the platform. It was tall, wearing a delivery uniform stained with rust and dirt. Its face was hidden under a cracked visor, but he could see his own reflection inside it. The figure stepped closer, dragging something behind it, a trolley stacked with identical black-wrapped parcels. Each one had his name scrawled across the top. The figure stopped just before him, raising one gloved hand. The voice came again through the radio, softer this time, almost intimate. "You've been chosen. Deliver the last one." Jared's heart hammered. "Chosen for what?" he asked aloud. But the figure didn't answer. Instead, it pointed toward the far end of the platform. Through the fog, a dim light pulsed. The air felt heavy with something ancient and wrong. Against his better instincts, he followed. Each step felt heavier, the air pressing down harder. The light grew brighter, and he saw a door, black metal, etched with strange symbols that pulsed faintly in the dark. Above it, a sign read, "Final stop." The figure stepped aside. Jared looked down at the package in his hands. It vibrated slightly, the paper crackling like old parchment. A voice echoed in his head. "Open it." He shook his head, backing away. "No." The door creaked open on its own. A rush of cold air poured out. Inside, the shadows moved like living things, whispering, calling his name. Something in him gave way. He stepped inside, the package still clutched to his chest. The door slammed shut behind him. The radio went silent. The GPS blinked one last time. Route complete. Outside, the station disappeared. Only tracks remained, stretching endlessly into the fog. Somewhere far off, a train whistle blew.